What's going on, YouTube, and welcome back to Goal Line Hockey. It's your boy Kevin Forte, and today we are breaking down my predictions for the NHL trade deadline here for 2025. So, a couple of moves have already been made here before the deadline. We're going to go over a couple of more moves that I think could be in store before we hit 3 p.m. tomorrow night. March 7th is NHL trade deadline day. Stay tuned tomorrow morning, 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. Eastern. We'll be doing a 4-hour, that's right, 4-hour live stream. So if you catch a break, maybe during lunch, if you're taking off for the day, come hang out with us. We'll be doing a live stream, kind of going over some of the moves that'll be going on probably tonight into tomorrow morning. We'll be going over all of that here on the channel. Big day for the channel. I'm really excited to reach out with some of you guys again. All right, so the NHL trade deadline preview. We're going to start off with some of the bigger names and kind of work our way down. So we're going to start off with a guy like Mikko Rantanen. A lot of talk has been going on about what's going to happen with him, the Carolina Hurricanes, and it kind of sounds like a deal won't be coming here in terms of a new contract with him and the Carolina Hurricanes anytime soon, at least not up until the trade deadline. And Carolina is going to have to make a tough decision here, and if they are willing to move a guy similar to a Mikko Rantanen, it's probably going to be they want something in return. They gave up a really good player in Marty Necas going the other way in that Colorado deal. They're going to want a return for him. So it's going to be interesting to see exactly where he falls. There's been a lot of talk about Vegas, LA, some of those teams like that. And honestly, I'm going to go with the LA Kings here. I think the Kings have the most of what Carolina would probably want in return. There was something that really caught my attention the other day that not a lot of people really kind of speculated on, but there was a lot of talk that the Carolina Hurricanes were extremely interested in Jordan Spence the other day. And then I was thinking, well, why are they talking to the Kings? You got to think deeper. So why are the Carolina Hurricanes specifically interested in Jordan Spence? Oh, maybe that's part of a return, maybe in a deal with Mikko Rantanen. Interesting how that works. Now, there's a lot that could be said in terms of who else could be in that deal. Could it be Brandt Clarke instead? Is it Jordan Spence? Is it first round picks? Is it a prospect? What else could also be involved in that type of deal? Because I think the Carolina Hurricanes here have a lot less leverage than they did when they tried bringing in Mikko Rantanen. This is a situation, well, why the Carolina Hurricanes trading him? Because he doesn't want to sign with Carolina. So you lose instantly, you lose a little bit of leverage here. It's going to be interesting to see what Carolina does with Mikko Rantanen ahead of the deadline. But I'm going to go with the LA Kings because I think that Jordan Spence thing, for some reason, is clicking something in my head. And I'm like, there's a lot of talk between Carolina and LA. I wonder if we're going to see something get done there. So that's my prediction for Mikko Rantanen. So let's move down the list a little bit. All right, so Brock Nelson. A lot of talk about Nelson. Minnesota, New Jersey, Winnipeg. And I specifically said it that way for a reason, because there's been a lot of talk. The Islanders were trying to get a deal to re-sign Brock Nelson, and then apparently Winnipeg said, whoa, before you get a contract done, is there any way we could still try and get this guy? I think the Winnipeg Jets saw him the other night against the Winnipeg Jets. I think the staff there in attendance for that game, the scouting and the GMs and stuff for the Jets were very impressed with Brock Nelson. He was playing penalty kill, power play, scored a goal, got a beautiful assist on another. He played really well against the team he might be playing for later this weekend. So he played really well. I think the price is going to be pretty high, though. Are the Jets willing to give up some good players in return? Because the way we saw the Yanni Gourde, Oliver Bjorkstrand trade go down, the fact that there was 2 first-round picks in that deal for a second-line winger and a third-line center, a really solid third-line center, mind you, but a third-line center who has 6 goals this year, he was worth a first-round pick. So how is this going to work with a guy like Brock Nelson? He's going to be worth something pretty substantial. You're starting with a first-round pick and probably a good prospect. And is that potentially Colby Barlow? I don't know. Maybe that's the price. And if the Islanders say, we want Barlow in a first, what do the Jets say to that? Do they scoff at that? Or do they say, maybe there's something we could work with here? Now, again, I think part of the holdup right now for the Islanders with Nelson, at least at the making of this video, is they're still trying to work out an extension themselves with Brock Nelson. And if that's the case, it's harder for teams to kind of talk to Nelson and his agent. They need some kind of conversation with Nelson and his agent because they want to sign and trade. They want, if they're going to give up Barlow and a first round pick, rightfully so, I could see the Jets saying, if we're doing that, we need to know he's going to be here for the next 8 years. I think that's a huge holdup right now for the Islanders because I think they're still in the back of their head thinking we could snag Nelson back in free agency this summer. So would it be worth it for the Islanders to just get the first round pick for Nelson, have him potentially walk into free agency next year, come back to the Islanders? Or do the Islanders look at, listen, we're probably done with Nelly at this point. We're going to trade him for a first-round pick and Colby Barlow, but we're also going to know that he's not coming back this summer, as he is already going to be signing an extension with the Jets or whatever team he maybe signs with, right? So the Jets are really interesting. The Leafs are another team, but I have them going with somebody else. We'll get to that in a minute. The Islanders are going to be in an interesting spot here. They have a lot of leverage with Nelson. He's probably the top center on the market, The Islanders have leverage here. Can they make something work of it? We're going to wait and find out. But, I expect something to be done here with Nelson. If the Islanders do truly go into the deadline and do nothing with Nelson, whether it's re-signing him or trading him, I'm going to be not even shocked, but more so disappointed in Lou for not figuring something out before tomorrow at 3 p.m. We'll see what happens, though. Continuing the theme with the Islanders, we got Kyle Palmieri, who is a free agent this summer, as the Islanders are kind of a team right now that, again, if they're willing to keep Nelson as a UFA with the situation they're at, they're 3 points out of a playoff spot. They beat the Winnipeg Jets the other night. I am still not convinced that the Islanders are a playoff team. Even in that game, there's a lot of things that are just concerning me about the Islanders, and we've seen it over weeks. It's not like a one-day thing. They have not beaten the Rangers this year. There's a lot of reasons to kind of say the Islanders are not a good matchup for probably any of the Metro teams or even the East, the teams in the Atlantic who are probably part of the Power 3. If you're looking at a first-round matchup in the Slaughterhouse against Washington or Toronto or Florida or Tampa, I don't really want any of that. What's the winning there for the Islanders? So I don't know. I'm really torn on this. I think the Islanders easily should sell those guys off. I know Palmieri's a Long Island native. It sucks to lose him, but I could see him going back to the New Jersey Devils. I think the Devils are a good fit for Palms. And again, if a team like the Los Angeles Kings goes for a guy like Mikko Rantanen, then that kind of takes away a need, right? So if Rantanen goes to the Kings, well, now the Devils kind of are falling right into the lap for Kyle Palmieri. I could definitely see something working between the Islanders and the Devils. Don't be surprised if we see an Islanders-Devils trade here before the deadline. Another interesting one here is Scott Lawton. I think the Devils right now, the way they've been playing, they see themselves slipping a little bit, and they see the arms race. They might see the Rangers make a move. They might see a team like Carolina make another move. Washington maybe make another move. So the Devils are looking at themselves in the arms race and saying, oh, maybe we got to do something here. And there could be a shot here where with Timo Meier saying the other day, it sucks losing and this and that. They're going to look to give themselves a shot in the arm. So not only are they going to add Kyle Palmieri, but maybe there's a way they could even add a guy, I don't know, like Scott Lawton. I think Scott Lawton's an interesting name here for a team like the New Jersey Devils. Scott Lawton, again, playing down the road with the Philadelphia Flyers. I could definitely see a fit there. I think that's the type of player that is going to generate a lot of interest on the market because once the Nelson domino falls, I think we're going to start to see some of these other guys we'll talk about in a minute, like Braden Shen, Scott Lawton. Those guys are going to quickly fall off the board right after that move. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens here with Lawton because I think there's a lot of teams interested in him. And it's going to probably be the highest bidder that ends up getting Danny Briere's probably top player available from the Flyers, which is Scott Lawton. So now we move down the list. This is another one with the Islanders. This is one that I just think is a good fit because especially if the Islanders were to trade Nelson and or Palmieri, but they still want to believe they can do something, I could see the Islanders going after Colorado's Casey Middlestat. I don't know what the return would have to be. Like, would it be Bodie Wild for Casey Middlestat? I don't know if they're willing to make that type of move. Or even, who's the recent guy that they just sent down? Not Isaiah George. I mean, Isaiah George could be, which I hope they don't trade Isaiah George. The other defenseman, I completely forgot his name. Completely blanked on me. There's another young defenseman on the Islanders that could be a really good fit, potentially going the other way from Middlestat, because he just hasn't really developed with the Islanders and really hasn't found a spot. So maybe Casey Middlestat goes the other way for that. Peter Mrazek, if the Islanders are still trying to make a run, I know that I know Peter Mrazek has been basically like thrown to the door already. I really think they're looking to move on from Mrazek. So if the Islanders trade him, if they get a 4th or 5th round pick, they trade for that. I think the Islanders, just that security behind Sorokin, that Varlamov probably isn't coming back the rest of the season. And unfortunately, we've kind of seen a real regression from what the Islanders were hoping to get in between the pipes behind Sorokin and Varlamov. We were hoping to see somebody else maybe come up, and it just hasn't worked. So, I don't know. I think it's an interesting situation right now, and yeah, Jakub Skarek. So, again, Jakub Skarek, with the way things have been going, I think the Islanders are maybe going to look to add a guy like Mrazek just as some security, and it's cheap. So you're technically buying at the deadline, but you're trading a 4th or 5th round pick. I can see the Islanders doing that. Trevor Zegras, I think this is another one. The Ducks have been playing really well right now, so I don't know how interested they would be trading Zegras right now. But I wonder if the Vegas Golden Knights were to take a swing at Trevor Zegras. This is one that I'm a lot less certain of. This is more of a just for fun. I think it would be kind of interesting to see Trevor Zegras go to the Vegas Golden Knights. And again, I don't know what the package would have to be in return. It would have to be a defenseman. Like, are the Golden Knights ready to give up a good defenseman? I don't know if they're really in that position to right now, but that would be really interesting to consider, right? And it's kind of one of those things where for Zegras, I think a change of scenery at this point is inevitable. It's just a matter of when. And you know what? If the Ducks are winning like they are this season, maybe that changes the way he thinks about things. And maybe he's like, you know what? I kind of like playing on this team. I'm winning. Things are fun again, and I want to play on a team that's winning. And why am I going to leave now when they're finally finding success? It's going to be interesting to see how that plays out. There's a lot of good players in Anaheim, right? Jackson Lacombe, Owen Zolwager. Like, defensively, there's a lot going on with the Ducks too. So I wonder if we could see the Ducks do something at the deadline. I'd be very shocked if they were completely silent. Wonder if a guy like Brian Dumoulin, which we could talk about here now, Brian Dumoulin's name has been kind of thrown out there. Where does a guy like that end up? I think an interesting fit, depending on what a team like the Rangers does. I think because they traded Ryan Lindgren, I would love to see them go for a guy like Dumoulin. I think he's a really good, that kind of shutdown defenseman, maybe to play alongside a guy like Adam Fox. I think Dumoulin would really fit well there for the Rangers, and they've seen him a lot playing in Pittsburgh. He's a good shutdown defenseman. He's not what he once was, but he's still fairly good when he's healthy, and he's proven he could be a little bit healthy this year. Why not throw him in there? And again, for the Ducks, it makes sense because they're going to allow some of the younger defensemen to get in the lineup, right? So that's that deal. Braden Shen and Luke Schenn. Let's take a look at this. So the Luke Schenn thing is kind of weird because Luke Schenn just got traded to the Pittsburgh Penguins with the Nashville Predators trade that they made the other day. So now that that deal is complete, well, now what does it look like for Luke Schenn? I think the Penguins are going to flip Luke Schenn. They are out of the playoffs at this point. They're very much on the outs looking in. And I could see them flipping Luke Schenn to a team like the Dallas Stars. The Dallas Stars lost out on the Seth Jones situation. The money wasn't going to work there. And Jim Nill kind of said it himself. So if Brian Dumoulin doesn't end up in Dallas, I could see a guy like Luke Schenn. I saw him the other night in the Rangers game against the Predators, and he was throwing Rempe around a little bit. Everybody forgets about Luke Schenn. He's a tough guy. I remember him in Vancouver and all those years he played with the Leafs too. Like, he's a good defenseman. So Luke Schenn, I think he would be a perfect fit just culturally in that locker room with a team like the Dallas Stars pushing for a long playoff run. Keep an eye out for a guy like Luke Schenn. I think he could have some value on the market this year. And then kind of going the other way to Braden Shen. There's a little bit less talk about Braden Shen recently. And again, a lot of this depends on what happens with guys like Nelson and Lawton and maybe even Zegras. But that center market for like a second or third line, like a middle six center, Braden Shen would be a perfect fit for the Toronto Maple Leafs. I think it makes a whole lot of sense. This is that type of center that the Leafs like to bring in around the trade deadline. He's tough to play against. He scores goals. He scores big goals in big moments. I think Braden Shen is a conglomerate of things that can help out the Toronto Maple Leafs. And again, this is a good Leafs team, but they want to win a Stanley Cup. And if they're willing to give up a guy like, it might cost them like Fraser Minten. But I think that's what you're looking at. Braden Shen is going to be probably the guy that I think the Leafs are looking at, are probably going to try and bring in here over the next couple of hours. And then to cap off today, this is one that has been thrown around a lot, so I'm kind of running with the train here, but it makes a whole lot of sense. And that's the Nashville Predators and the Rangers making a trade involving Michael McCarron. The idea of the Rangers potentially playing the Washington Capitals in the first round, right? You got Tom Wilson, that's obviously a factor. You've got some of the bigger guys there like Alexei Protas, Dylan McElrath. The Caps have a big team. So how are the Rangers going to fight that back? And you got Matt Rempe, right? But you want to take away some of the load off of Rempe, because I saw it in the other night against the Predators. Like I said, like everybody's giving Rempe their best shot. They don't want to be the guy that gets destroyed in the boards by Rempe. So everybody's giving him his best licks. If you have a little bit to deviate from that, right? I think that's a huge thing they lost from Dumoulin. So a huge thing they lost in the Lindgren trade. So if they're able to bring in a Michael McCarron, a Brian Dumoulin, the Rangers it's not going to cost them that much. It's not going to cost them multiple first-round picks to bring in these types of players, right? You're looking at, from Michael McCarron, maybe a third or fourth-round pick for Luke Shen, or a guy like Brian Dumoulin, maybe a second, third-round pick. It's not costing you your top prospects. It's not, you're not trading, Brennan Ottman or anything like that. You're not trading any of your top prospects, and you're still getting a good trade value in. I think the Rangers are going to look to do something like that here before the deadline tomorrow. So that's kind of it. I think this is a pretty good view on a bunch of teams that are going to have players interested. I think the main story of this year's deadline, and we'll talk about it more tomorrow morning, make sure to watch that live stream, is because the playoff race is so wide open in the East and the West, there's not a lot of sellers. So the teams that are sellers at this year's deadline are going to make bank. We saw that with Seattle the other day, right? Technically a third-line center in Yanni Gourde and a second-line scorer with not even 20 goals this year in Oliver Bjorkstrand. That was 2 first-round picks. Now, I know there was other players like Kyle LeCoin in that deal and this and that, but 2 first-round picks for that. That is setting the tone. That's setting the market. So if that's the value of those types of players, what is basically a first-line center, right, on a middling team, like the Islanders with Brock Nelson, what does he cost, right? Are you talking about Colby Barlow and a first-round pick, right? Your top prospect and a first-round pick? Maybe, right? And then you talk about guys like Lawton, Palmieri, right? They could probably go for a first-round pick. Braden Shen, maybe even a first-round pick. Mikko Rantanen, probably going to be the most expensive. That might be the big blockbuster here before the deadline, right? Mikko Rantanen. Do the Islanders take a swing at a guy like Mikko Rantanen? I don't know. I think it's going to be one of those things. We've been hearing little things here and there. We've seen little trades like here and there. Like, I think the Panthers are probably done. They traded Spencer Knight. They traded they got Seth Jones. They added that salary cap. I don't think they're going to necessarily stop talking to teams, but I think they've made it pretty difficult. Like, unless you're trading guys out, you're probably not going to get that deal done, right? Like, if you're trading in a situation with Mikko Rantanen, you're probably looking at, well, do I want to trade out a guy like Carter Verhaeghe to get that deal done? Probably not, but that might be the price. So let me know what you guys think down below. I'm so excited for tomorrow's live stream. We'll be live streaming tomorrow morning, 9 a.m. Eastern to 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I'm really excited to talk to you guys again. It's been a long time, but I'm ready, and I hope you are as well. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you guys again next time. Peace out.